The history of train travel in Israel is older than Israel itself. In 1892, local businessman Yosef Navon commissioned French engineers to build a railway from his hometown of Jerusalem to the port of Jaffa. Proposals for this route had existed all the way back in the 1830s. As it is, the Jaffa-Jerusalem Railway was the first railway in the Middle East outside of Anatolia or Iran. In 1904, the Ottoman Empire constructed a line between the port of Haifa and Bet Shean as part of the larger Hejaz Railway, connecting up with the main line at Daraa the next year. An additional branch line to Nablus opened in 1907. In 1914, the Ottomans joined the Central Powers of World War I, and with German assistance constructed what is now known as the Eastern and Southern Railways, even reaching into parts of Egypt which were under Ottoman occupation. After the war, Palestine became a British mandate. Soon after occupation, British engineers widened the tracks themselves from meter gauge to 1435 standard gauge. At the same time, they constructed a new connection between the Eastern Railway and Haifa, as well as branch lines to Acre, Petah Tikva, and into Egypt. However, the Southern Railway wasn't standardized and was removed in 1927. During the Second World War, Army engineers from Australia and New Zealand built a rail link into Lebanon. However, this would not last. In the War of Independence that soon followed, the Israeli army severed all international rail links to hamper enemy troop movement. The Jaffa line was also shortened by 1 kilometer, now terminating at the Tel Aviv Customs House. At the end of the war, the West Bank became part of Jordan. With the railway junction at Tulkarm now under Jordanian control, a small bypass was built. The Jezreel line was also abandoned. At this time, the two largest cities in Israel were Tel Aviv and Haifa, but no direct rail link existed between them. Thus, the Yarkon line was extended from Petah Tikva to what is now Bnei Brak. This connection was further enhanced by the construction of the Coastal Railway in 1953 and of Tel Aviv Central Station in 1954. By this time, there was almost no demand for the Eastern Railway, but because it was so close to the Jordanian line, regular service continued along it for propaganda purposes. In 1956, an entirely new Southern Railway was constructed to the outskirts of Beersheba, and in 1969, Israel's victory in the Six-Day War rendered the Eastern Railway obsolete. The following years saw a severe decrease in train usage in the country. In 1970, the Jaffa line was cut back once more to the southern outskirts of Tel Aviv, and by the 1980s, annual ridership had declined to less than 1 ride per capita. Nevertheless, it was clear that Israel could not depend on the automobile, and new rail construction began in the 1990s. First, a new branch line was constructed to Rehovot and then extended to Ashdod. In 1993, through service in Tel Aviv was finally provided with the opening of the Ayalon Railway. In 1998, the Jerusalem line was shut down for major refurbishments. In the meantime, the Southern Railway was straightened and extended into Beersheba Central, and the Yarkon line was brought back as the new Sharon line. More commuter branch lines quickly opened to Rishon LeZion and Ben Gurion Airport. The Jerusalem line finally reopened in 2005, though it now terminated at the new Malcha shopping center, far from the city center. The same year, new services opened to Ashkelon and Dimona. Subsequent developments in the 2000s would focus mainly on Greater Tel Aviv. In the 2010s, the focus has now changed to the periphery. The Southern Coastal Railway opened in 2013 and reached Beersheba in 2015. The following year, the Jezreel Valley Railway reopened for the first time in 67 years. Then an entirely new railway opened to Carmiel in the Upper Galilee. Finally, 2018 saw the opening of the high-speed railway to Jerusalem. This is not a true high-speed railway, but rather uses extensive tunneling through the Judean mountains including, controversially, the Latrun Salient, in order to be as straight as possible. In the coming year, the Sharon line will be completed, reducing commute times between Ra'anana and Tel Aviv from 40 minutes by road to 20 minutes by train. Current capital projects include new branch lines to Kiryat Shmona, Nazareth, Arad, and between Modin and Rishon LeZion. More projects are planned that will restore the Eastern Railway and link the rail network to Tiberias, Yerucham, the Red Sea port of Eilat, and even into Jordan.